Hey there, podcast listeners. Hopefully you are sitting somewhere nice and cozy, all quarantined up. We've got 30 minutes for you on the latest in marketing, advertising news, and a little dash of culture this week. Welcome back to the, again, disinfected studio. Rebecca, Joe, Kyle. It's nice to be quarantined with all of you here in the podcast studio.
Yep. Keeping safe social distancing.
So, I mean, social distancing is a great time to catch up on your podcasts.
Great time to appreciate all the great memes that are out right now.
That's another thing you can
Panic
do.
at the Costco is my favorite.
Yep. You can browse memes while listening to podcasts.
Excuse me, whose phone is not muted?
That was my wife texting me.
That is unacceptable.
She is 38 weeks pregnant.
I don't care.
I will get notifications.
If she's giving birth.
I do.
You silence
I care
your
immensely.
devices while we're recording.
I will pause this podcast,
show some
sir.
respect.
All right. Let's start off with top of the news. This is out of Digiday. In the age of coronaviruses.
There's more than one!
Well, technically there is more than one.
19.
This is just
Technically,
a new strain.
the common cold is like a coronavirus,
yes,
too.
but publishers see a podcast mini boom. So what we led off the episode talking about. I mean, does this surprise anyone?
Not
I
at
don't.
all.
I mean, yes, this is out of Digiday.
No, I mean, it's quick. It's cheap to produce. Like, when something's high interest, you can get this going faster than you can get a TV show going. So I think it's a smart play. Again, it's a smart play for existing publishers. Like, if you're not already in the media or podcast space, you're not going to launch your COVID-19 podcast and have it skyrocket.
Since January 22nd, 650 episodes of podcasts that are at least tracked at this point reference Corona or COVID in the episode title.
I saw some stats earlier. I don't want to say where because it's not in our stuff today, but something like 1 in every 3 posts on social media use the word COVID or virus or outbreak or something over the last week.
So The Guardian added some episodes that were coronavirus related to its podcast, which is called Science Weekly, which is its health podcast. BBC World Service has actually launched a daily podcast
BBC.
specifically focused on the coronavirus. So get your coronavirus listening
in
in.
case you haven't had your fill of coronavirus information and speculation yet.
Obviously, don't listen to those
more.
episodes until after you finish this one. So next up on the coronavirus talking points list here, travel ad spend cut dramatically in wake of a pandemic. Again, not that shocking. Airlines are now asking for a $60 billion bailout. No one is flying. There's still a consideration of a domestic travel ban.
Delta's the only one with ads still up, which I think is interesting, that acknowledge the travel ban. The spending is down 44% since February.
And I will say that Delta CEO Ed Bastian is being mostly praised for his transparency.
Well, dude, that good PR is how you get that good bailout money.
Yeah, for his transparency in the first week or so of this crisis.
What if he was like, if you don't give us money, we'll crash all our planes?
Well, he was just very clear about what they were doing. We clean the
idea.
planes already with these types of cleaners that are already rated to kill coronaviruses. We've upgraded them. They fog now transoceanic flights that come in. They basically do like a little pesticide fogger kind of thing to kill all viruses on board before new people are allowed to board. So anyways,
I've also seen in the out of Digiday similar article that CPC costs are down like 90% for some things in the travel space.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's not a lot of competition driving those ad prices up right now.
But we'll talk a little bit more about how that impacts, other businesses. We got a segment in the show later.
Boy, will we. Out of the Verge, Peloton offers a free 90-day subscription trial for its at-home workout app.
When life gives you lemons, you make high-end lemonade, sir.
But what about the devices?
So this is, I guess, this is an independent workout. This is like yoga and stretching. You don't have to have the Peloton bike or treadmill in order to do these exercises.
Gotcha.
I guess their goal is...
it's like Peloton for peasants.
Peloton for peasants.
Yeah.
Yep.
All you need is a yoga mat instead of a
Peasant
$3,000
Peloton.
bike.
Yeah, instead of the bike.
So then they'll get you in for 90 days, and then after you've recovered from coronavirus, they'll step you up to the real intense bike ride.
Yeah, I mean, good for them. You can pedal while the world burns.
I have a really good skill of using up my free trial and canceling beforehand. I don't fall for those tricks.
Is that a skill?
Yeah.
How is that a skill?
Because you have to remember to cancel it before
I mean, all you have to do
renews.
is set a calendar reminder.
Yeah.
As soon as Rebecca sees the trial, she's like, haha, you're not going to get me, scam
She doesn't even
artist.
use it for 30
Yeah.
days. She just wants to say she got it for 30 days.
Yeah. I picked up this sweet deal. on Peloton exercise.
Didn't
videos.
use it, but I got a deal.
Fun
It-
fact, one time Rebecca did one crunch and had to wear a neck brace.
It was like 4 crunches, but one crunch is funnier, and that is true.
Came in late with the
4
neck
is
brace
not a
on.
lot more than 1.
She looked like
let's
she
be
got
clear.
in a car wreck.
It was a very awkward crunch.
I would think so, to injure
a
you
very awkward
badly.
crunch should probably be the title of this episode.
A very awkward crunch. And no, we're not talking about granola. Out of Bloomberg, the news site, not the campaign. I know it's confusing sometimes.
R.I.P.
Instagram to roll out IGTV advertising in a challenge to YouTube. So Instagram plans to sell advertisements in IGTV. It's home for longer videos, a bid to compete with YouTube for a larger share of the booming market for online video.
Yeah, and this was Facebook's goal with this going back 2 years. If you go and listen to like early episodes, we talk about this when they first launched IGTV.
Does anyone in here actually watch IGTV?
I've watched a little more over the last couple of months.
Is it good?
The content has started to get better for it, where if it's a video over a minute, Kyle, is that what it is?
Over 60 seconds.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing some videos that go over a minute, and then it'll just flip me into IGTV, and I'm like, all right, I'll ride with this for a little bit.
I like them.
But then I get Facebook just recommending me some weird videos on Facebook Watch.
Oh, that one you shared.
I sent you guys that one, that
day.
like Chinese movie with the fish eating the kids.
Yeah.
And
It was,
Facebook was like, Facebook Watch recommends this for you. And I was like,
it was like a dragon
what
fish
is going on?
that ate a baby.
Like,
and
oh,
then
he's got
ate
a
the
kid.
mom.
Yeah.
Got a kid. Let's
And a
show him
toddler.
this.
Let's show him this like fish eating villagers. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, that was.
So that's what
pretty
Facebook
wild.
decided I needed to see on
Obviously.
Friday night.
I really like the vertical video format. Like I thought I didn't in the beginning, but like since last couple months, and especially since we've been doing a lot more of them, I really appreciate like the vertical video format. It's just new
You're
and
a
interesting.
communist.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, look, I think the way you watch it, the screen real estate, it is aesthetically pleasing having it take up the full screen on your phone.
Well, sure, because this is how you hold your phone, right?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
hold it vertically.
It's actually annoying to me to hold
It's obnoxious
to
to
hold it like
sideways.
this is like, oh, I look
Yeah,
like an idiot.
I agree. Yep.
How about those?
If you hold it like this, you look. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, boomer, hold your phone horizontal.
Well,
Like,
unless
hold
you're
my phone
taking
like
a
this.
picture, yeah.
like when you go to watch a YouTube video and you're not in the app, you watch it like somehow from another source, and then you go to turn your phone landscape and it doesn't go
Oh,
landscape, and then
yeah,
you're
yeah.
watching a landscape video in vertical. That's
Then you're that idiot.
Yeah.
You keep trying to like turn your phone. I hope we're catching this on camera where I'm just like turning my phone.
Like as a Twitch.
Yes.
Like as a
my
Twitch?
pop filter on my microphone just smells intensely like Lysol.
Yeah, you,
I
you
wonder
went,
why.
You went hard on
That's
it.
how you know it's
That's how
healthy.
I'm not going to get the coronavirus, and you all are.
You've already
mean,
got coronavirus.
I wiped mine down. I think it did a sufficient job.
I
I guess
sprayed
we'll
mine
find out
hard.
in 48 hours. If
Plus, now I'm inhaling these Lysol
I was gonna
fumes,
say,
which
you're
is
getting
killing,
loose.
Oh, that's gonna
killing
take
the
it out of your
virus
lungs.
in my throat.
That's important.
Yeah.
and also
Woke.
in your brain.
That's fine. My brain's already fried anyways. So, last article before the really pleasant talking point one, is at Digiday. Everyone is so worried about their job, they're not doing the work. Confessions of an agency executive.
Yeah, and if you read that article, it talks about what's happened for agencies is the clients are working from home, which is code for hardly working. And so
How dare you?
the agencies don't have much to do. And because the staff don't have much to do, the staff sit around and freak out about what they're going to do. Instead of doing what they should do is try and find things that are
Find
useful
ways
for
to
the
be
client to
valuable.
do.
Yeah.
But I thought that was an interesting article because, I mean, we talked about this, this week, or it's Tuesdays. We talked about it yesterday on Monday. Marketing budgets are highly discretionary for most companies. So if you're in the marketing advertising world, it's getting close to midnight on the doomsday clock. You got probably another couple weeks before clients start to not only suspend advertising, but straight up cancel ad buys. And you're going to get to that point with some big players like Disney.
Well, we already know how big the travel industry
Yeah.
is a spender of marketing and advertising campaigns. And we know from the story a couple minutes ago that they've largely shredded their advertising budgets.
So I want to talk two parts through this piece. One is the rubric we are using to talk clients through. Should they suspend their ads? Should they keep ads in the market? And then I want to talk about on the agency side, if you run an agency or really even run a business, what should you be doing right now? Because one of the things we think is happening is we think there's another 3 or 4 weeks of grace period before the economics of this start to get really, really bad really, really quickly. And I think most people listening probably don't appreciate just how quickly things can get out of hand when businesses see demand drop by 50 and 80%. So did you have thoughts on that, Matt?
But do you want to talk about that first, or do you want to finish
let's talk about how we walk clients through, because this
Okay.
is part of it. So first is the demand question. So there are businesses which their demand for their product or service is directly impacted. A good example that we've had experience with recently is music festivals. If you're running a music festival, whether it's 6 months from now or 8 weeks from now, people aren't buying those tickets. So you running your ads right now is not going to move tickets for you.
which is very frustrating for our client Firefest. I mean,
Ja Rule. So, in the case of a music festival or, maybe a sporting event or something like that, even if your event is July and August, people aren't going to make that purchase. You are better off suspending your ad buys.
Right.
Hold your money, see what happens, and then come back into the market when people are willing to make those purchases. Then you have other types of goods and services where this has a de minimis effect or may even increase demand. So the obvious one is going to be almost any food item in the grocery store right now. You're going to have things like probably clothes for online shopping. People aren't going out to buy clothes right now, but they're going to be sitting around at home, which means they're going to shop. You're going to have potentially different sorts of healthcare services are going to be good to market in this. Obviously, any streaming service, any video game, digital item.
I mean, the CEO of Charmin has just got to be rolling around in his Scrooge McDuck vault of gold coins at this point.
So, Rebecca, do you have any ideas for like things that the demand probably rises over the next few weeks for?
I mean, I think it's smart that a lot of providers have come out with like telemed doctors, because that will be useful where people have like, say you have poison ivy, for instance, but you don't want to go into the emergency room right now or take up space. And Talkspace, where people can still get therapy.
Talkspace has been going hard on the ads.
Yeah, any services that are offered virtually, I think you'll see a huge spike in that.
Yeah, I think I had this thought earlier. I think like at home gym equipment is going to be like skyrocketing as well.
Yeah.
Because everybody's posting their stuff. So like people who sell kettlebells and dumbbells and, benches, all that stuff.
Played against sports.
I was looking at Rogue Fitness stuff last week and I was like, man, they're probably having like a good couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because everybody that usually
poor
goes
FedEx drivers.
Yeah.
Just delivering kettlebells all
day long. I was squat rack in my house. It came in some like 4 huge boxes.
It's like the UPS guy that had to bring us all the sandbags we ordered
yeah.
for our video equipment.
That guy was upset when we got here.
And I don't blame him. We're sorry.
I mean,
sir.
he was like, "What'd you guys order? Rocks?" And I was like, "You're not actually far off.
just smaller rocks."
We spent hundreds of dollars on bags of sand. It's a thing the kids are into.
Pre-filled though, and that makes a big difference.
So the second question for a business, once you answer the demand question, is let's say you have demand, and it's going to be your marginal profit question. So is every unit you sell actually profitable? Now, for most people listening, it might be intuitive to you that, yes, businesses only sell things that are profitable. But we have a huge multi-trillion-dollar piece of our economy right now that's built on venture capital and private equity scaling out businesses. And so these businesses, some of them are apps, some of them are direct-to-consumer companies, some of them are different sorts of tech startups, are willing to lose money in the short term to acquire customers now. Think about the food delivery services or even Uber and Lyft lose money on every ride currently. They're in a race to see which one goes out of business, and it's probably, like Uber has more money stocked up.
Uber Eats suspended all delivery fees for food right now.
Yeah. And look, I mean, that's a play to get customers, and Uber Eats has, more money than God stacked up that they can live off of for a while. But you have a lot of companies out there in the place that because the product they're selling isn't marginally profitable and their goal is to get to the next fundraising round or the next stock issuance, they probably need to scale back on their ads because the goal for them is going to be survive long enough to get to a point where they can raise money again or drastically change their business model. Finally, third, the digital ad market. So right now, ad demand is down in a lot of segments. So it's actually a really good time to buy. And you couple that with people spending a lot more time on device. There's no research on this yet. This is just intuitive and qualitative observation. When people are in their house for an extended period of time, they spend a lot more time on social media and on their device.
Right.
And then, finally is you have to also make a bet right now on how quickly do people adjust to a new baseline of risk and of inconvenience. If you bet that people adjust quickly to a new baseline of risk and inconvenience, you probably want to go ahead and keep your ads running. Now, maybe you're going to change the message, and we'll talk about that in a second. If you're betting that they don't adjust well to new risk and new inconveniences, then you might want to scale back on your ad buys. And let's jump for a minute to some common ideas that are really good that we've seen businesses and companies do to put a message out that they're open for business and you can trust to do business with them from a health perspective. I'll start. The best one I've seen is a lot of local restaurants putting on Facebook, the checklist of things they're doing now to prevent the spread of coronavirus. This is going to be only serving plastic cup, wiping down tables with disinfectants after every use, wiping all of the door handles and knobs every hour, things like this. What else have you guys seen in the
I was at the car dealership this morning. I was at the Acura dealership getting my car serviced, and while I was sitting in the customer lounge area, twice someone came by and wiped down every seat and tabletop in the lounge with Clorox wipes while I was sitting there. So that made me feel a little bit better about having gotten my car serviced this morning.
Yeah, I've seen some restaurants too alter. They're doing additional cleaning, and grocery stores are closing early to provide more time for sanitation.
And the restaurant takeout model is
the takeout model. Yeah, that's what I was going to speak on. Is that they're providing limited menus and offering delivery, even if they're a restaurant that doesn't normally do delivery. So you have your option of a smaller menu, and you can still get the chance to support a small business without putting yourself at risk.
And I think you have an opportunity to do some entertaining content that's hey, while you're quarantined, check this out. Just something, fun and relatively lighthearted that still acknowledges the situation, but understands that most people are just sitting in their house with nothing to do and at very little risk.
Yeah, I mentioned Delta a few minutes ago and what the CEO, Ed Bastian, did. And this was this was a couple weeks ago, right? So this is while people were still at least traveling domestically. They were still going on work travel. Most of the quarantine had not been put in effect. Bars, restaurants weren't getting shut down. But just being very transparent about the cleaning procedures for aircraft. Obviously, there's some people that had to fly, that had to take work trips, or that had to get home to their families. So having the transparency of these are the chemicals that we use. They're approved by the CDC and the WHO for killing this virus. We've increased the frequency that we use these chemicals. If there's a transoceanic flight coming in, we use the fogging system. And then focusing on the fact that before this ever even started, Delta already had what was widely rated as the first-in-class air filtration system on its aircraft that had HEPA filtration installed in the cabins already. So
so that's a good one, just letting people know. But then I think a big one is if you're a regional or a national business, you can't look at every city as the same. The response in different states and different cities varies so dramatically. And there was some Open Table data that Open Table made public on Friday that showed how reservations were down each day of the outbreak so far. And there's cities where reservations are down 80%. But there's cities where reservations are only down 25 and 30%. Right. And so shifting your ad dollars to focus on places where people aren't yet in a full-on outbreak mode, and shifting those dollars out of places that they may be focused on containing an outbreak right now.
Yeah.
And one of the standard businesses you don't think about, but alcohol companies right now, I saw Ryan Reynolds Aviation Gin. They came out with a recipe for a quarantini using aviation gin. And so it was a quick pivot. And also helps encourage people to drink at home and stop doing social drinking.
There was also a quarantini that involved pouring Emergency into some vodka, but Emergency came out and said, we don't recommend doing that.
And one of the things that we've done an episode on this, I think we did an episode on marketing during disasters a few years ago when there was a hurricane.
How many years do you think we've been doing this podcast?
This was 2 years ago.
We haven't been doing this podcast for 2 years.
I mean, we started July or August of 18, right?
Yeah, like September of 2018. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been a while, but we did one on marketing during disasters. We've had some experience with hurricanes, which is similar in a lot of ways to what's going on now. Now, obviously, not every way. This is a little more slow motion.
Slow motion.
But, the experience with hurricanes is communicating very clearly with your customers what you're doing. So in a hurricane, it's, hey, we're going to open back up at this time. Well, we don't have these foods. We do have these foods. And this is the same thing. You need to be communicating often on social media, mostly with your core customers about what it is you're doing and why they can trust that your business is going to be there for them and they should keep ordering from you or buying from you.
Right.
Now, look, if this goes on another 3 or 4 weeks, that's going to be a moot point because the layoffs and the economic cascade will kick in and demand will plummet. But that'll be a podcast episode for mid-April. So that kind of leads us to the next piece. Anybody have anything else to say on like coronavirus adaptations from an agency perspective? I guess we need to cover. Like, as a business owner, Matt, like, what do you think is important to be thinking of right now?
Cash flow. I mean, that's what, we're obviously an agency, but that's what a lot of business owners are going to be thinking about. How long can I take care of my employees if all of a sudden we have no customers, or all of a sudden clients start taking 3 months instead of 1 month to pay invoices?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. I think most responsible business owners want to do as right by their employees as they can. And so most business owners right now have already probably made a calculation of, if every customer I had stopped paying tomorrow, how long could I take care of my employees to ride out whatever this is?
Yeah. And so I think that's actually an important one. And it doesn't look like from that Digiday article that agencies are doing this, but being very clear with employees, what the outlook is at any given time and letting them know that changes dynamically. Now, I like to couple that with a piece to give people control over that or something to do. And I think that is, in that sort of situation, the way you protect yourself as a consultant or as an agency is you got to come up with a way to show value. And so what is it you can pitch the clients? What ideas can you surface where you can help that client navigate the disaster better? Because if you come out of it in 6 weeks or 8 weeks and it's moving in the right direction and you help them do marginally better, that makes you incredibly valuable going forward.
Yeah.
And if you don't pull out of it, well, then everything's screwed anyway, but you don't lose anything by like investing in the client.
So, also here, this is where I think that smaller agencies have a bit of a leg up on some of the larger agencies, and not just because they have, a 15-person payroll to make instead of a 1,000-person payroll, but small agencies compared to the large ones, and there's amazing work coming out of some of these large agencies, but small agencies right now are usually forced to get their clients by providing outsized value compared to, especially for larger clients, going to a known entity, right? So instead of going to one of the established, Fifth Avenue, Madison Avenue, players,
holding company owned folks.
Yeah, the smaller agencies are able to be kind of scrappy, and they're used to having to show value right off the bat because they can't always rely on a big name to get them an account, whether that big name is their agency or someone within the agency. So, I think there is a little bit of a built-in advantage there because a lot of times this is how small agencies have to think anyway.
Yeah. How can you move quick to bring value to the client, like in the moment? And I think that's unique also to digital, because digital agencies are always responding to what's going on.
Sure.
And that is like just part of the game when you're doing digital media. Do you have any thoughts on that, Rebecca?
No, I agree.
How dare you agree? You must disagree. Did we do the Joe Biden thing yet?
Nope.
Okay, let's do that now. And then we'll finish on work from home.
Let's talk about Crazy Uncle Joe.
So last week, Joe Biden did a teletown hall. And
did he.
Did he? And if you are thinking about like, what you've seen maybe Bernie Sanders do, Bernie Sanders does these very elaborate live events. There's a ticker of donations.
Very well produced.
They're produced. They are cutting to a band that's playing. Like he's in a well-lit background. Well, the Biden campaign decided, hey, if those kids over at the Burning Campaign can do it, we over here in the DNC establishment can do it as well. And so they fired up their Zoom conference call software.
This is the equivalent of Firefest to Coachella if you're comparing Biden to
to Bernie Sanders. And so they promoted this that Joe Biden was going to have a big announcement on how he was going to lead during coronavirus. And it was
going to be virtual, so no one would have to touch each other.
It's going to be virtual. So they go live, and what they have is the corporate conference call from hell as their event. So it starts with, they started early, so you could hear the audio people in the background doing audio checks. And then the staff
There's nothing better than live broadcasting that sound check as it happens.
The staff becomes frantic when they realize there's a buzz on the microphone. And the reason we're telling you all this is Matt and Kyle have probably done more live internet events than most people outside of maybe the Sanders campaign. And so I'm going to play a clip that was on the No Agenda show this last
we're literally using a software system right now
to do this.
That's
that would
designed
be used.
for live broadcast just to record the multiple camera angles.
Yeah. So I'm going to play the clip from No Agenda Show that they cut because I couldn't find the full one online. There's other pieces of it. And then Matt, Kyle, I kind of want your response on
a little bit of a breakdown.
What the issue is
yeah,
here.
you got it.
Before we get going, if anybody from the Biden campaign is listening, it's called Sling Studio. It's what we use.
Switcher Studio is a great one as well.
Switcher
Matt
Studio
or
too.
Kyle at Choose SDS. We'll consult.
Telestream is a great option too if you're a little bit more sophisticated. My guess is that Telestream is what the Bernie campaign is.
Yeah.
So here we go. Here's the clip.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I told him I was like, this doesn't work out.
So this is the opening.
I'm sorry for the technical difficulty for all those folks on the line.
So
I know that crying was not Mayor Pete Buttigieg. It was, in fact, an actual baby.
What you heard there is when they went live, this was Zoom. And so if you've ever been on Zoom, the staff who was on their computers at home, I guess, who had unmuted mics, whenever they talk, like the little screen would pop up and show them like next to Joe Biden's screen on the feed. And so there was a bunch of staff that didn't have their stuff muted. So you heard that kid screaming in the background and that screen pops up. And then you hear someone else taking a conference call. And then you just have this god awful fragmented audio of Joe Biden. And then eventually they ended up just handing him an iPhone with the speaker turned on.
Well,
so he was just holding it.
Esther came in there for a second, and Esther was just a green wall.
Yeah.
How long did they take to pivot?
3-4 minutes, and they did that, and then at the end they just took it all down and then refilmed it and put it up as a pre-recorded thing.
So cringy.
Matt, Kyle, like go over like what went wrong there and what are the basics you would recommend for anybody considering doing a live stream during this time of quarantine.
I mean, the biggest thing that stuck out to me was the audio, and my guess is what happened there is that they had multiple audio capture devices. I don't know what kind of camera system they were using or anything else that were just providing feedback to one another, and that's why you heard him echo so many times every time he said something. Now, I mean, Kyle is the master audio producer over here, so correct me if you heard something different.
Oh no, that was.
But that was the biggest thing that stuck out, is there was no single source point of audio, and so there was somebody's speaker. They were just getting jumbled files back and forth. Obviously, I don't think Zoom was meant to be the product used for a teletown hall. Yeah, so like,
what's funny with me is what I think like they did, Matt, is I think they thought like town hall too specific, so they're like Zoom is like basically like a teletown hall.
Yeah,
they're like,
that's literally what they did.
If everyone in the town hall is just allowed to scream at the same time, then yes, that is.
Yeah, I was like, man, that's like what I was thinking of what they did. I mean, the hissing thing. The hissing thing is literally like probably just the phone plugged in. Like they were clearly just using a cell phone like signal for people calling in on the Zoom or whatever. So
and then they just had people just popping up in little boxes sporadically.
I mean research, that's what I would say.
Testing.
Helped out a lot.
I mean, look, testing's the most important thing
that's
there. So there's no reason you should be broadcasting your sound check. Like that's somebody hit the button too early.
Yeah.
You got to practice these things. I mean, honestly, what ended up being their challenges are not the things that I most often find to be the challenge with live broadcasts like this. And we've done governor's addresses. We've done
Things
live broadcasts
underwater.
from underwater, the top of a parasailing rig, a drone. Like we've done some fairly complicated live broadcasts. The things they had go wrong were not often the things that we find go wrong. Normally, the biggest one is internet access.
Yeah.
And they had that. Unfortunately,
there
for
were
a
some
lot of
cut-ins now,
staff.
and that's that's the expected thing because you
Right.
just can't guarantee a stable internet connection most places unless you're at like a hard line like verified center. This kind of looks like it was in Joe Biden's campaign office. Like
Yeah.
They just set up some flags in the background.
I mean, we've solved that in the past by making sure that the highest quality local internet service provider provides a dedicated drop line to the event. So, like in big speeches, like Comcast will come provide a dedicated input and router for just this event that no one else can access except the team that is broadcasting the live stream. That works well. If you have a dedicated hotspot that no one else is allowed to connect to, and you've done extensive testing in the location that you're going to be broadcasting from, that can work
That's
really
like
well.
testing. It just looks like they went live on that. And so
Like,
the way
it's a Zoom meeting. Let's hit go.
Yeah, the way you test this is you have a dummy account and you test it by you first do a stream.
You do a
an
run
hour
through of the
before
entire event
on
So
the dummy
any-
account.
Any outside video you're testing, any on-screen graphics, audio sources. I mean, you run through. I mean, there's a reason why live shows do a run through. Like there's a reason they do the final run through.
Yeah. So that's just good advice. Don't assume you're just gonna throw up that Zoom conference meeting and do that teletown hall very well.
Well, especially if you're competing against a friggin' rock star.
Yeah,
at
and
it.
let's talk about that for a second because I mean Bernie Sanders, his campaign, I mean obviously a little bit more youthful campaign, not necessarily in the candidate, but in the staff and the people that are attracted to him. So they need to be cutting edge when it comes to these tools. But I mean the Bernie Sanders campaign is running the equivalent of a news broadcast. It is super high quality. Rarely do you have internet interruptions. They have a scrolling ticker across the bottom for people that are live donating during the event. All the on-screen graphics have been pre-tested in advance to make sure they look good. They're oftentimes switching to remote locations, which means they have, essentially the modern day equivalent of satellite feeds in from other locations that might be a concert or different camera angles or different rallies around the country that are all taking place at the same time. And that probably most looks like an AV or a production team, kind of similar what you would see when a concert is recorded for like a DVD. So like if Eric Clapton's doing a DVD, they'll have a really high-end production team that's getting all these camera angles. They'll mix it later. So in this case, they're basically mixing a live concert on television, then they're taking that broadcast and feeding it out to all the places they want to go. Dedicated computer going to Facebook, dedicated computer going to YouTube Live. It works really well.
Yeah.
They've done an exceptional job at it, probably better than any other presidential campaign out there. Now, the Trump campaign does a good job with video content. I don't see them use the live content as much. They do live broadcasts for his official addresses. So like the White House will do live broadcasts. They do live broadcasts from the rallies, which are usually decently well produced. But the Trump campaign does essentially their own like news show. They call it like real news or whatever. And regardless of your feelings on
not that fake news
or real news or Donald Trump, like this is a really good tactic. They have Lara Trump, so his daughter-in-law, and she's the host. And occasionally they switch in other hosts. I mean, and she's in essentially a news studio where she has stuff appearing over her shoulders that are the topics she's talking about. She's sitting at a news anchor desk.
Family business.
And this goes out like once a week. So, it doesn't have to be live. I don't think this one is live. I think it's a recorded video that's produced and posted later.
So the last time, and I know this will take us a little over time, but it's okay because who knows if we're all going to be in quarantine.
We're
next
already
week.
over time.
Rock on, dude. We're just going to live like it's the end of the world.
Okay.
Is working
People
from
are
home.
listening to our podcast. Didn't you listen, Kyle?
So Axios had a story from Friday called Remote Everything. As cases of coronavirus multiply across the U.S., every office, school, restaurant, and store shut down is stress testing the country's ability to live life without leaving home. So what this is testing is right now only about 4% of Americans work from home full time. And remote learning is more prevalent at colleges with about 16% of classes being taken online. But for the most part, in major companies, it's a new thing because we prefer to work with people face to face. There's an assumption that creative environments matter and working together matters. Rebecca, I want you to start because I think you'll have the most different opinion. What is your opinion working from home, good or bad overall?
I think it's great overall. I don't think I'd recommend it like 100%, but I think if you did like 25% working from home, 75% in office, like especially for our model, I know the days that I've worked from home, I have been uber productive. And I'm not just saying, I mean, like some tasks that would normally take me probably like 45 minutes to complete, I can do in 20 at home. And there's some tabs that I have open for 2 straight days at the office that I just never get the chance to follow through on just because
you got to record podcasts.
There's so many distractions in office. Whereas when I'm at my house, I can just like focus.
Yeah.
Which I know sounds kind of strange, but and I think I was thinking about this, and part of the reason is when I'm at home, I'm also multitasking with like home tasks too. So I'm like doing laundry. So here, when I'm in downtime, I like meander into someone's office and I'm like, talk to me for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I waste time. But like I never end productivity when I'm running, like when I'm doing things at home. Like if I'm not working at my computer, I'm like switching laundry or I'm like doing the dishes or making food.
Putting your computer in the laundry.
Washing it. So I don't get
that
coronavirus from my computer. But yeah, so I never end the productivity at home. And so I know I wouldn't want to do it like fully. I am way too much of a social being for that. But it's really nice the few times that I've had the opportunity to.
Matt, what are your thoughts?
I think it's good and bad. I think it completely depends on the staff person. I think it's good for some companies that are in hotbed areas to be able to get people out of the office, especially in environments where you have a lot of people packed into the same room in like cubicle style, where there's hundreds of hands touching the same surfaces, bathrooms, hallways, kitchens. It's probably a good idea to get those people out of the office, especially in some of the tech hubs like San Francisco, which has obviously a huge amount of incoming traffic normally from China, from other countries that have had outbreaks. So I think it's generally a good idea. I think the degree of success and efficiency that can be achieved for some people is 100%. For some people, it may even be 110%, like Rebecca just said. And for others, it's going to be 60 or 70%. So I think on a case-by-case basis, it really matters the person and the personality type to determine whether or not it's working well.
So my opinion on it is in small doses, there's probably not much of a productivity loss. In fact, there's this study that's cited in the article, a 2015 Stanford study, says productivity boosted by 13%. I think in the long term, what you end up with, and this also cites a Harvard Business Review, and this is what I've seen from the people I've known who worked from home before for a job, found that remote employees are more likely to be disengaged and quit their jobs than those who work on site. Mm-hmm. And I think we are confusing the ability to do your job remotely with your ability to interact with a team and have a fulfilling work environment. Now, there's some people who are going to be such extreme introverts, or maybe they are writers or they are computer programmers or they're solo graphic designers, where that might make a lot of sense because there's no difference. But
there's also some circumstances where teams are formed as remote teams from the beginning.
Yeah.
Where just digital interaction and conference calls, Zoom meetings like the Biden campaign tried to have, those are built into the culture, and so it just works a little bit differently.
Yeah, and look, there's some types of companies like what's the company that owns WordPress? They are an entirely distributed remote company. Automatic is entirely distributed. I think most companies and most people, over time, you get a slight productivity bump, and then the effect on attitude and engagement and investment in the mission quickly starts to wane, and then they move on. my other piece of the working from home thing is I think if you're in a corporate job that can very easily be done from home over an extended period of time, you're probably at a high risk to be automated in the near future. So if your job can be done without needing your human input on most things, if you can just have orders slacked to you from a manager like you're a mechanical Turk, like it's only a matter of time till the computer is able to just do that job.
Well, I think there's merit to what you were saying about how the organization is built, because reading through this Axios article, it's saying that a lot of companies are finding logistical challenges and needing to download Slack. For instance, like
I would not want to work at the company where no one can figure
Slack
out how to
does-
download Slack.
well,
That's the
and
challenge.
Slack doesn't already exist, but we use Slack, Airtable, Asana.
Some of us use Slack.
You should buy ads on these platforms, guys. Yeah, and so I feel, and
Spam
we spend a
people's Slack
significant
channels.
amount of time on conference calls throughout the day, so that's why there was not much interruption the day that I worked from home. There wasn't a lot of difference. I still talked to you guys probably a good 5 hours total that day between conference calls and messaging. But I think, it depends on the organization and if there is a lot of face-to-face value in the work you're doing.
I think it's especially true of smaller companies or startup companies where the team dynamic matters a great deal. Having somebody who no one interacts with is going to de facto result in them being a less important piece of the company.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way human dynamics work. It's a little bit out of sight, out of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess sometimes they could take care of conflict issues or alleviate them, but I think what you pick up there is just people are just somewhat detached from what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts? Kyle, Joe, Rebecca?
No.
All right.
I mean, I got plenty of other thoughts.
I said final
For
thoughts.
next week.
I never have final
I didn't
thoughts.
say other thoughts. I said final thoughts.
Stay safe, listeners. Wash your hands.
Wash your hands at least 20 seconds. Make sure you're wiping down those surfaces with Clorox wipes, Lysol wipes, or like me, spraying down your microphone.
Good luck getting toilet
Extensively.
paper.
Dose of Lysol spray. I'm good on toilet paper.
We hoarded it
I
all.
over-ordered
Matt hoarded.
on-
Matt's a hoarder.
But unintentionally and long before
Shame
this
him.
crisis broke out, I just accidentally forgot to cancel a couple of my
Whatever,
Amazon
you knew
subscribe
this
and
was gonna
save orders.
happen.
I did. Yep, I knew.
You're in
Um,
cahoots.
Cahoots. That's me. All right, listeners, stay safe. Unless something just absolutely tragic and horrible happens, we'll be back next week with the latest marketing, advertising news, and some hot takes on culture. Folks, this is Tuesday, March 17th, so you won't hear this until what, Kyle? Wednesday, Thursday is when the episode will come out?
Yeah.
All
Thursday
right, well,
morning.
today is actually election day in Florida, so if you're one of our
Oh,
listeners
yeah.
in Florida, we hope that you voted today.
Or don't, because it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, it does.
It's done deal on both sides.
Yeah, but they're okay.
I'm voting for the better tech team. Go Bernie.
Gulag!
All right. So, hope you voted. We'll see you here next week with Podcast Record. Thanks for tuning in.